Want to download? All right. Just borrow for now, and inshallah we continue later. We'll try to accommodate you later, Sheikh. Just share the book. What is something wrong with the internet on the phone? Oh, okay. Oh, Bismillah. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه من تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فإن خير الكلام كلام الله وأحسن هدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. As we continue 8:12 p.m. April the 7th, 2019, which is in the ingredients now. It's the 3rd of Sha'ban. I can't believe it. The 3rd of Sha'ban. Tonight is the 3rd night of Sha'ban, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not, tonight is the 3rd night. Still on your phones, it might say the 2nd of Sha'ban, if I'm not mistaken. Yours says the 1st? I kind of figured that. No, alhamdulillah, Amir, he showed me on his app, it said the 2nd. I was thinking in my back of my mind, they probably saw the moon, and they might have reset it. Sometimes that happens on the apps, whereas they cited the moon earlier, and the new month started, but it didn't reset on the phone. But they announce it on the internet, you know, as far as those who are experts in seeing the moon, they'll announce it. But the people's phones will still be inaccurate. They'll be off. Their phones will be off. So I kind of figured that's what might have happened. So today it says on your phone's the 1st, so it's tonight it's considered the 2nd night. What's it say on there now? If I'm not mistaken. The 1st, so that means it's the 2nd night. It's the next 2nd night Sha'ban. Yeah, I kind of figured that. It says the 2nd? It's the 2nd night Sha'ban. Yeah, you're right. What did you say? Yeah, but it didn't switch over because it didn't. Don't worry about it. It's the 2nd night of Sha'ban. So, the 2nd night of Sha'ban, which is the year 1440 after the Hijrah of Mustafa alayhi salatu wassalam. And we continue in Buloogh Al-Maraam, where we were discussing how the actual month will inaugurate based upon the ru'ya, based upon either the sighting of the moon or completing 30 days of Sha'ban. And there's no third choice after that. There is no third alternative. And we know that the least amount of days, of course, in a month is 29 until one sights the moon, just like what happened now with Sha'ban, the transition between Rajab to Sha'ban. So, now you'll find that the sighting of the moon, the people investigate when the moon is sighted on the 29th night, and that is the least of what a month will be considered, as the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained in Al-Bukhari. He said, "Al-shahr 29 yawman." He said that a month is 29 days, meaning that is the least, of course. After that, the people start to investigate to look for the sighting of the moon. If they don't see the sighting of the moon, then they complete 30 days. And then definitely after that, the new month starts. So we were discussing of how, or after we completed the hadith of Abu Hurairah, we finished the explanation of that, and the hadith of Ammar ibn Yasir, radiyallahu anil jami'. We were saying, and we discussed, rather we explained that the one who fasts what they call Yom al-Shak, the day of doubt, that type of fast is invalid. It is invalid. Because one has fell into something impermissible in which the Messenger of Allah prohibited. I'm saying focus. Which the Messenger of Allah sallallahu that he prohibited. That the day of doubt be fasted, meaning the day that one will intend to fast for Ramadan, even though it has not been made clear whether or not Ramadan has started. But a person wants extra worship, what they want to take what they call يحتاط في عبادته أو أنني سأصوم هذين اليومين على سبيل الاحتياط. That I would try to now fast these 2 days out of safety, taking safety, cautious, if you want to say, out of safety or precautious measures I want to take. Maybe perhaps that Ramadan will start tomorrow. For in that reason you'll find that some of the people, they will fast, they say على سبيل الاحتياط, just to be safe. And we said that's incorrect. It's not permissible to fast Yom Shak. It's not permissible to fast the day of doubt. We completed those 2 narrations, and that shows that it's not permissible for one to add onto worship or to subtract either. To do exactly how the Messenger of Allah legislated, and that is the meaning of Muhammad Rasulullah. And that's the meaning of the testimony that Muhammad is the Messenger of Allah, is that you worship Allah based upon what He legislated. That you worship Allah Ta'ala based upon what He legislated, without adding anything or subtracting anything. But to do exactly what He had instructed. طيب. On the next narration, as we finish, and we move on to the next one, this is where we stopped at. The hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar, where the Messenger of Allah says, سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إذا رأيتموه فصوموا وإذا رأيتموه فأفطروا فإن غم عليكم فاقدروا له. As we finish that. ولمسلم فإذا أغمي عليكم فاقدروا له 30. وللبخاري فأكملوا العدة 30. وفي رواية فأكملوا عدة شعبان 30. You okay? طيب. When I thought of Abdullah ibn Umar that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu he said, I heard from the Messenger of Allah, if you see it, then fast. If you see what, everyone? The sighting. And if you do not, and if you see it again, meaning at the end of the month, then stop fasting. Meaning break your fast, meaning stop fasting, because the month is over. And if the affair becomes ambiguous, meaning it's not clear due to some type of hindrance, that comes in between you and the sighting of the moon, whether it be like we discussed last class, whether it be cloudy, whether it be some obstruction from dust, or any type of circumstance that will hinder you from seeing the sighting. If that's the case, then complete the 30 days of Sha'ban. طيب. The other narrations, if you read it, what does it say? فَإِذَا أُغْمِي عَلَيْكُمْ فَاقْدِرُوا لَهُ 30. If it's not clear to you, there's something blocking your vision or hindering your vision or an obstruction or hindrance for you seeing the sighting of the moon, then complete 30 days. وَلِلْبُخَارِ فَأَكْمِلُوا الْعِدَّةَ 30. Al-Bukhari, complete the 30 days. Just keep reading. And then another narration, it says upon Abu Hurairah, then complete the period of Sha'ban 30. Finish the month of Sha'ban by completing 30 days. طيب. So, after we laid down what was the correct sunnah of following the Messenger of Allah sallallahu in Sha'ban, now we move on to how the Messenger of Allah sallallahu clarified to the Ummah, given clear instructions on how this ibadah or this tremendous worship or this affair of Ramadan starts. And the Messenger of Allah made it clear of how we do it. And it's not based upon what they call al-hisab al-falaki. It's not based upon astronomical, what they say is they call it manazil al-qamar or al-nujum al-fada'iyah. Or as they call it, the astronomical calculations. As you'll find that a lot of those who are upon the methodology of the Ikhwan al-Muslimin, the Muslim Brotherhood, this is what you'll find that they utilize. They use what they call astronomical calculations, instead of sticking to the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah in this regard. So, the al-hisab al-falaki, or the astronomical calculations is not regarded, nor does it have any significance with us. The Messenger of Allah made it simple. To sight the moon, after 29 days, or the 29 days is up, start investigating. Seek out and look for the moon. And like we talked about last class, this affair is only for the what? For those who are experts. Ashab al-khibrah, or as they call khubara, or those who are mukhtassoon fi hadha al-bab, those who specialize in this matter. Those who are experts and they know what to look out, or they know what to see. They know how to look at the moon and know the shape or the time and the distance and the position it's in to know that Ramadan is about to start. That's not for everyone. It takes experts who have acquired years of experience and expertise in this matter. It's not for anyone who's on the street in the corner to say that I've seen the moon. Rather, it's people who have experience and they know what they're looking for. And we know, alhamdulillah, and based upon other countries, that they have, some of them, over 80 years of experience. So they know what they're looking for. They know the position of the moon. They know how to utilize the stars as far as directions. Whether it be the east, the west, and the position of knowing the seasons. You'll find that the people in the past really utilized this method. And they were more advanced in this regard. Why? Because they used to utilize and use it more. It was what they relied upon more. So in these days and times, due to the fact that now those who have inherited the same expertise, they know what to look for. So it's not for anyone from amongst us to set out to see what side is the moon, is it started Ramadan or not. Do we know what we're looking for? No, we don't. Rather, they will discuss the other details in this matter shortly, inshallah. So when the Messenger of Allah sallallahu that he said, fast due to what? Due to the sighting. And stop fasting due to the sighting. So the Messenger of Allah sallallahu he started the hukum, or the ruling of fasting, based upon the sighting of the moon. Based upon the sighting. And likewise, stopping, cease to fast, or the month finalizing or being over, by seeing the moon likewise. So the Messenger of Allah said, if it becomes unclear to you, then complete the 30 days of Sha'ban. When the Messenger of Allah said, فَقْدِرُوا لَهُ, count the days, or count it, meaning count the month of Sha'ban. So that's the first option. So like I said, just to make everything simple and concise, there's two ways that Ramadan starts, as we know. Number one, the sighting. Once the 29th day, once it starts, we completed 29 days of the previous month, meaning of Sha'ban, the people go out to investigate. They go out and they investigate. Then, if no one can see it due to some rain or clouds or what have you, Messenger of Allah gave a second alternative, which is what, everyone? To complete the 30 days. That's it. It's that simple. So we don't go outside of what the Messenger of Allah had laid down in order to start this pillar of our religion. So the Messenger of Allah said, count exactly those 30 days, which is the second alternative, because the origin is that Sha'ban, that it remains until the moon is sighted. So that's the origin. Now also is that the month that we're in now, which is Sha'ban, that the origin is that the month remains until, like we said, the moon is sighted, and then after that, then what? We count the 30 days. So Jamhur Ahl-Ilm, as we discussed before, it is not permissible to fast the day of doubt. It's not permissible to fast the day of doubt, and it's obligatory upon the people, if they don't see it, meaning the sighting, then they complete those 30 days. And that the origin is that the month remains. And if it had not remained, then it's obligatory for the people to what? Say that the month is still in until they see, or until they complete the 30 days. I'm just looking at what you do. When we mentioned them in this regard, also wanted to add something. This narration is similar to what comes in the hadith of the Dajjal. Similar. There's a narration which is in Bukhari and Muslim where the Messenger of Allah said, when after the Sahaba realized the magnitude of fitan, of trials and tribulations that the Dajjal will come with, And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained how his fitna will be widespread and he will pass to the earth. He will pass all of the whole dunya of this world very quickly. And to the point where he said that a day will be like a what? The day will be like a year. A day will be like a week will be like a month, and a month will be like a year. And he will pass over the earth within about 40 days. He will pass over the earth very quickly. The Sahaba had asked at the end of the question, O Messenger of Allah, a day will be like a week, or a week will be like a month. Will it suffice for us, the salat that we play normally, for all that time, even though it will be extended in this manner? Would it suffice for us on a regular day of the salat of a day that would be equal to a week? So the Messenger of Allah said the same thing here in this narration we mentioned, فَقْدِرُوا لَهُ, count the days, meaning count the time. What does he mean by that? You'll find that in regards to those, which one of the brothers had asked me last week, there's countries now that have land, or they have seasons where their nights are long, and they have maybe 1 hour of a day, such as Alaska or the North Pole, or wherever, or places in Siberia, I think that's close to the north. You'll find they have seasons where their days are very short. Some of their days, or some of the lands that they might have a day of maybe 2 hours. That's it. Or we may have a day that might be even an hour. Even to the point where some of them in certain places, they don't even have a day. It's just all night. A day might be maybe a half an hour to maybe 10 minutes or what have you. So how would they perform their fast? So this is the reason why one of the brothers had asked me, what does a person do? What a person would do now is, based upon the hadith of the Dajjal. The hadith of the Dajjal, of the Antichrist, you'll find that the great Imam Ibn Baz extracted the benefit from these narrations. The great Imam Ibn Baz, when he was asked this question, he said, due to the hadith of the Dajjal, when the Sahaba had asked, O Messenger of Allah, a day would be like a week would be like a month would be like a year, will it suffice for us? All the prayers that we pray on a regular, normal day, would it suffice for us in those same days that would be that long? So the Messenger of Allah says, similar to what we mentioned here, فَقْدِرُوا لَهُ, count the days or measure the distance. Now let's apply it. Basically, a person now that lives in a land, in a remote land, there isn't a long day. It's just an hour maybe, or less. The person now, due to the hadith of the Dajjal, the Messenger of Allah said, فَقْدِرُوا لَهُ, measure the distance, meaning that the closest city or the closest country of what they consider to have a day, then you will base your siyam based upon their day, not upon what you're in. So the closest country or land is a neighboring land or country that they have something of a day, meaning, let's just say, for example, the neighboring land next to you might have a day that lasts about, well, let's just say, for example, let me switch it up. No. Their nights will last about, let's just say, 18 to 20 hours. So a day would be, in certain countries, 4 hours. So a person would have to, so now a person, how would they fast? Would they fast in those 4 hours? Would they have to fast in those 4 hours or 5 hours? Let's just say 5 hours. Which is almost like a day. Matter of fact, let me switch it up first. I'm sorry, everyone. Let's just say now a person has a day of 20 hours. Because there are some lands that have lands that the days are 20 hours. And the nights is maybe 2 or 3 or 4. Does a person have to fast 20 hours and they will only sleep 4? We would say yes. They have to be patient. As the great Imam Al-Albani was asked about this, he said our days are long, 19 hours, our days. Some of them 18. Alhamdulillah, we've experienced this, brothers. It's nothing new to us. Alhamdulillah, in the UK, about a couple of years ago, when I was talking to Abu Khadija, I talked to Awais, Al-Tawil, Hafidhahumullah, he even said in Birmingham, he says we won't break fast until about maybe almost 10 o'clock in certain seasons. Maghrib. Like maybe almost 9:30. He said in Isha coming about 10:30, 11 o'clock almost. He said the Fajr to come in about 3 o'clock, 3:30. So they asked Sheikh Ubaid about this. Asked Sheikh Ubaid. So Sheikh Ubaid was asked, Sheikh, the time is very close. We want to pray Tarawih. It's a long day, short nights. What do we do? He said, combine Maghrib and Isha. Due to the hardship. To the fiqh of the ulama. Combine Maghrib and Isha and just pray Tarawih around 10:30, 11 o'clock without praying Isha. Because you already prayed it during the time. Exactly. Yes, you can. Exactly. Combine both salat. Then at that particular time, now you just pray Tarawih. So that's it. So when the time of Isha comes in, you can just pray Tarawih. The point of the matter is that the days was long and the nights was what? Short. Jade, let's reverse it now. Let's just say you're in a place in Alaska. The nights are long, but the days are short. Let's just say, for example, the closest country, they might have a day which is about 5 hours. So the nights are extremely long. So what do? So if the neighboring land is that extent or that length, then that's what they would base their days on. That's what they would base their time or their days of their siyam, of their fast, based upon the neighboring country that does have something of a day to it. And that's based upon the hadith of the Dajjal. So the Messenger of Allah, when he said, when the Dajjal comes and the time is now long, he said, look to the time in the distance. Look to it. Meaning the time of the salat, pray it even though the time is long. If it's very long, pray it in the time when it's in. Doesn't matter. If the Dajjal comes in your time of when you pray, or that day might last. So they thought in their minds they had to pray some extra prayers due to the fact that when the Dajjal comes, his day is going to be extremely long. But that's not the case. He said, measure the distance. Meaning those prayers, when it comes in the time, then pray it. Don't exceed the number of the salawat, even though a day might be long. Same thing in regards to what? Those who live in those countries that do not have a day. They have seasons where, like for example, they might have 18 hours of the nighttime, 19 hours of the nighttime, or 6 hours of the day. They would look to, well, let's just say, for example, I'm sorry, everyone. Let's just say 23 hours, so 24 hours a night and 1 hour of a day. They would look to their neighboring country that has something of what is considered a day, and they would base their siyam upon their day. Is it clear what I'm saying? So when the Messenger of Allah, so that shows, number one, how complete our religion is. Everything is covered. Everything has been what? Has been covered, and we've been given instructions to do and to conduct in every circumstances of how to worship Allah. So, the Messenger of Allah had mentioned here, he said, measure the distance. So that is to show. Something wrong? Your pencil, bro? Oh. Here, take this. Focus. I got a pen. Right. So the Messenger of Allah here in this narration that he want, and this he gave two alternatives in order for us to start our fast. Right. Another question would come. A person would say, what about an individual? What about a person who lives in certain countries that one person will say that one sighting necessitates that everyone uses that sighting. I already gave him one. He's good. I gave him one. Does one person utilize one sighting? For the one who's seen one sighting, then that is enough for everyone to start their fast in every country. That's one opinion. The second one is what? Don't worry, we're going to get into this. Don't worry. There's something else I wanted to get into detail about because I want to get into this right now. I'm just going to put it out there and I'm going to give you the details later. I know what I'm doing. Right. Number one is that the one sighting is enough for everyone. Number two is, don't write this down. Don't write it down yet. Number two is that every country and every land has their own sighting. Number three is based upon the Wali al-Amr, the Muslim ruler. If he tells the people to fast, then they should start. We'll talk about that in a minute. However, what I wanted to speak about right now is where I stopped at last class. I said that the strongest opinion in regards to the sighting of the moon can be with what? With one individual giving a testimony. That's it. That's where I stopped at last class. One individual giving his testimony, if he's reliable, and some other details I'm going to give. And he's accurate, he has the expertise, his sight is strong, he knows what he's looking for, he's reliable, he's Muslim, then that person is what? That person's testimony is accepted, even if it's one individual. That's the strongest opinion as far as for the month of Ramadan started. That we can utilize just the testimony of one individual, which is called Khabr al-Wahid, or Khabr al-Ahad, with the news of one person delivering the message. And that was based upon the message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what happened with Ibn Umar and the A'rabi, which is in your books right now. If you look in your books, and we'll read it quickly, the narration where it says, the number one, the authority, Abdullah ibn Umar. He says, تراء الناس الهلال فأخبرت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أني رأيته فصام وأمر الناس بصيامه. He said that the people were looking and investigating for the sighting. And I informed the Messenger of Allah that indeed I saw it. He says, so he fasted and he commanded the people to fast, which is in Sunan Abi Dawud. Sahih ibn Hibban. طيب. So that's to show that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ relied on the news or the testimony of how many people? One. It's clear. The text is clear as the sun in the sky. One person. طيب. Read the next narration. Abdullah ibn Abbas, what does it say? أن أعرابيا جاء إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال إني رأيت الهلال فقال تشهد أن لا إله إلا الله قال نعم قال تشهد أن محمد رسول الله قال نعم قال فأذن في الناس يا بلال أن يصوموا غدا رواه الخمسة ترندف. طيب. That a Bedouin, that he came to the Messenger of Allah and he said, verily, indeed, I've seen the sighting, seen the moon, for the sighting of Ramadan. The Messenger of Allah, do you testify that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah? He said, yes. And that Muhammad is the Messenger of Allah? He said, yes. He said, announce amongst the people, O Bilal, that they start their fast tomorrow. This is another instance where the Messenger of Allah ﷺ also utilized the news of how many? One narrator. One narrator. To start and inaugurate the greatest worship in our religion, which is a pillar of the fast of Ramadan, which is a pillar. To start this pillar or this tremendous worship, the Messenger of Allah only utilized the testimony of one person. That was it. No more, no less. طيب. So now that's what we want to discuss. What is Ahl Ilm's position in this regard? And we said that yesterday, that the strongest opinion in regards to the one who looks for the sighting is that it can start by the testimony of one person. That is Al-Qawl Rajih. Even though there's other narrations in which I'm going to give the details of everyone, but that's the thing we want to lay down. We want to lay down the asl, the origin is that the sighting of the moon can be by one person. He has to have, of course, reliability, expertise. He knows what he's looking for, strong sight, to the end of it. And like we talked about before, we do not have that here for the expertise, and especially in relying on the ikhwanis. Nobody should be relying on the people of deviance to start the month of Ramadan. As Ahl Bid'ah is not reliable for us in this regard. That's the reason why we do not listen to what they say. A lot of them even utilize different methods that are innovated. Like we talked about, they use the astronomical calculations for the sighting of the moon, which is rejected. A lot of them do that. طيب. So we say that the strongest opinion is that what? That the month could be started by the testimony one, and it ends with how many? Testimony two. It's the strongest. I'm going to read the details, don't worry. I'm going to read it right now. That the month should be over by, and when the month is over of Ramadan, that it should be cited by two. طيب, so just listen. So now I'm going to give a little bit of the evidences. The great Imam Sheikh Zayd ibn Hadi al-Madkhali, listen what he goes on to say. He says, الأول منها والراجح الاكتفاء بشهادة رجل مسلم على دخول رمضان لما روى عكرمة عن ابن عباس. He's bringing a hadith we mentioned in your books when the Bedouin came. And also the hadith of Abdullah ibn Umar. طيب. He says, وَهُوَ الرَّاجِحِ. It is the strongest opinion. He says that one suffices by the testimony of one Muslim man. بِشَهَادَةِ رَجُلٍ مُسْلِمْ وَاحِدٍ. One Muslim man is enough for him to inform that Ramadan, or that the sighting has been what? Attained for us to start the month of Ramadan. And that's based upon the narrations which is in your books. Those two narrations that you read, those are the evidences for this, which is clear. So the message of Allah only used what? The testimony of one. So you'll find that the evidences and proofs, it says, is an indication for that, for one, or the obligation of accepting his testimony. Fine. Another question I want to ask everyone, who's the one that accepts his testimony? Is it the ruler or someone else from the common folk? It's the ruler. It's the ruler. Fine. That's another prerequisite here that's what? That's not here in America for the Muslims. Is there a ruler of the Muslims here in America? There isn't any. So who's the one that sights the moon? Who does he tell? The emir of the Muslims in America? Who's the emir of the Muslims in America? Oh. Is there an emir for the Muslims in America? There isn't any. So that's another reason why we say there's no what? There's no ru'ya here. There's no sighting for the people here, for their own, due to the fact that if it was cited, who are they going to speak to? They're supposed to take the affair back to the what? To the ruler. The message of Allah here in this narration was who? He was the ruler. If you look in this narration in your books, the message of Allah was the ruler. He was the emir. He was the ruler. And there is no ruler here of the Muslims. There is no ruler. There is no khilafah here. And there's no imara here. Get out your minds. And the imam of a masjid is not the ruler over the Muslims in the country. That already has rulership under the non-Muslims. So due to the fact that we're in this circumstance, we cannot apply what we're seeing here. That's going to bring us to something where I'm going somewhere with this, what I'm saying. So keep in mind, there's a reason why I'm mentioning this. Because a lot of people cause all this fitna every year. Why can't we have our own sighting? If we have our own sighting, who has the expertise? And number two, do we have a ruler to inform, to tell the people to announce the start of Ramadan? We don't have this here. Is it clear what I'm saying? There is no ruler here for the Muslims. There isn't any. And we're not upon the deviant methodologies of the Ikhwanis and the other Muslims who deviated, where they say, no, we do have a emir over the Muslims that we have voted for, and he's in charge of all of the Muslims in the country. Who? And who made him the ruler? And who from the people, from Ahl al-Hal wal-Aqd, from the ulama, that those who are people of taqwa, of rulership, of piety and knowledge, who actually made him the ruler? Who? And did it take place from a bay'ah that was based upon what was legislated of how the Messenger of Allah had chosen a leader for the Muslims? No, it isn't. It's based upon some innovative practice of what some Muslims have read out of some books, misunderstood it, and now they want to apply it incorrectly. No more, no less. So that's the reason why we say that the deciding for us here, all these conditions are lost that we mentioned. That's the reason why you'll find that the Salafis rely on what? The signing of Saudi Arabia. That's the reason. Because all these conditions, what we're mentioning right here, are lost. It's gone. It's not there. There is no ruler for the Muslims here. There's no khilafah here. There is no khilafah. And a person wants to establish a khilafah where there's already a jurisdiction established, then that's the methodology of the Khawarij, which we'll talk about, inshallah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. There's a Muslim ruler. The Muslim ruler. The Muslim ruler in Saudi Arabia. We're talking about, when we say ruler, we mean the one who's in charge of the whole country, the whole land. The whole country and the whole land. There is no Muslim ruler in charge of the land here in America. Plus, America already has their own rulership. You can't establish a successorship over another rulership in the same land. You can't do that. That's not from the religion. You can't come in a land that's already established, their own jurisdiction, their own rulership, overthrow it, or try to now have their own type of jurisdiction under their jurisdiction. You try to do that, it's chaos. So now, let's just say, for example, that would be very chaotic if you think about it. So now, basically, that would necessitate a lot of chaos. Number one, we can have our own laws. We have our own laws. So right now, if we have a khalifa, an emir for the Muslims, he sets up his own masjid or whatever, or society. They can have their own laws, their own courts. We have everything right now. If we did that right now, what do you think would happen to us? The government right here would shut everything down. Now, what you think you're going to establish our own successorship inside of our jurisdiction? You can't do that. It's chaotic. So now someone commit a crime. We're the ones that go out and go kill the person. We're the ones that go out and establish the law. Even though the cops are driving right down the street, we got our own. That's nonsense. It's absolute chaos. You understand? That's the reason why we said there is no ruler here. There isn't any. It's chaotic. So that's the reason why we said, based upon this, we're going to apply what the great Imam mentioned, Ibn Uthaymeen, in a couple of minutes. But that's the strongest opinion. So we said, we're just generalizing. If we were in a Muslim country, this is how it would be applied. What we're doing now. What we're reading now, this is how, we're reading the Buloogh Al-Maraam right now, this is how it would be applied if there was an actual legislative ruler for the Muslims in a particular land. This is how it would go. All right? And do not listen to anyone that says you have to obey the emir, give bay'ah, give the pledge and allegiance to the emir of the masjid. That's not the meaning of the hadith. Meaning of the hadith, give pledge and allegiance to the imam, meaning the ruler over the land. Not the imam of the masjid. I would not have anyone give me bay'ah. Nor do I want that responsibility either. Someone give me pledge and allegiance of the imam of the masjid, of hearing obedience. Whoa. And I've seen that done in certain masajid. And it's crazy. But anyway, for that thing we want to summarize, that's the strongest opinion, is that Ramadan starts by one testimony and it ends by two. There is other opinions in this regard, but I gave everyone the strongest. There's some of Ahl Ilm saying that one, Ramadan should start with two testimonies, and it should also end with two. There's another one that says that just as we started with one, and then we can also utilize just one. So those are the three opinions, just to summarize everything. Just to summarize and make everything what? Keep it simple. So number one, which is the strongest, is that it starts with one. It ends with two. The second one is that it starts with two and it ends with two. The third one is that it starts with one and it ends with one. Ends with one. Those are the weakest and what we mentioned in here, even though there's some evidences for that. But we'll discuss that later, inshallah. I'll read quickly what the great Imam Ad-Darqutni, rahimahullah, what he mentions says. He said, وجه الدلالة من النصين هو اشتراط العدد حيث قال في الحديث الأول فإن شاهد شاهدان مسلمان وقال في الثاني والشاهد شاهد عدل ولم يقتصر على واحد في حال من الحالين غير أن الجمهور الذين يرون ثبوت الصوم بشهادة عدل واحد قالوا إن التصريح بالاثنين غاية ما فيه المنع من قبول واحد بالمفهوم وحديث عكرمة وحديث ابن عمر يدلان على قبول شهادة الواحد برؤية هلال رمضان بالمنطوق ودلالته أرجح كما هو معلوم من قواعد الأصول. He's talking about how that the first opinion is the strongest on the Imam Ad-Darqutni. But anyway, he said even though all these different narrations have been affirmed, he says still, with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in other narrations, because some people might say, what about this one? I'm going to read this one quickly to everyone. There's a narration of An-Nasa'i on the authority of Abdurrahman ibn Zayd ibn al-Khattab. It says, خطب في اليوم الذي شك فيه فقال ألا إني جالست أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وسألتهم وإنهم حدثوني أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال صوموا لرؤيته وأفطروا لرؤيته وانسكوا لها فإن غم عليكم فأتموا 30 يوما. Now listen to this part. فإن شهد شاهدان مسلمان فصوموا وأفطروا. حديث صحيح. طيب. I want to see what's your answers in this hadith, this narration. There's a narration which is in Nasa'i, where it says that Abdurrahman ibn Zayd ibn al-Khattab, they was given an exhortation or reminder on the day in which the people had doubted, meaning I guess he was warning against them, warning against doing this. He said, verily I sat with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I asked them, and they said to me that the Messenger of Allah said, fast when you see it, break your fast when you see it, وَأَنْسِكُوا لَهَا, devote to it, meaning to the sighting. If it's not clear to you, finish 30 days. This is the part of the last part of the hadith. Listen to this. If two trustworthy Muslims see it, fast and break it. Hadith is sahih. طيب. Oh, تفضل, I'm sorry. Answer is simple. All you have to do is think. Think. This is easy. It's clear. Allah Akbar. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمد الوسيلة الفضيلة وبعث مقام أحمد وعته. طيب, what do we say about this narration? So this narration is authentic. It's easy, very easy. So it seems as if that the second is more closer than the first. Tafadal. So how we understand this narration though? What do we say? It's easy, very simple. All you have to do is say this. Now this is what, I'll read what Dar-Qutni says. There's another narration which is Abu Dawood. Dar-Qutni also extracted it. When the authority Amir Makkah al-Harith ibn al-Hatib عاهد إلينا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أن ننسك للرؤيا فإن لم نره وشاهد شاهد عدل نسكنا بشهادتهما. Verily we gave the testimony, or the Messenger of Allah gave us a covenant that we will start our worship due to the sighting, للرؤيا, even if we do not see it. فإن لم نره, excuse me, I'm sorry everyone. That if we do not see it, and two people who are reliable, two witnesses, two reliable, Muslim, upright individuals, they come to us with their testimony, that we will what? Accept their testimony. طيب, I'll listen to what Dar-Qutni says. This isnad is muttasil sahih. It's authentic. Just listen. He says the point of reference and evidence from these two texts that we just gave is that it's as if it seems that they're given a prerequisite that it has to be more than one. Just listen. Type. So we have in first one narration that says two witnesses who are Muslim giving their testimony. They've seen the sighting. وقال في الثاني شاهدا عدل. Two witnesses, or those who are two upright Muslims, who also give their testimony. طيب. He says, here the Messenger of Allah did not restrict upon one in these two circumstances, except that he mentioned two. طيب. So listen to what he says. He said, وغاية ما فيه المنع من قبول واحد بالمفهوم. He said, the most of what would think to understand is that it has to be two. That's not the case. Listen what he goes on to say. He says, Hadith Ikrimah and Hadith Ibn Umar
which is Hadith Ibn Abbas, it's in your books. It says it indicates the acceptance of the testimony of one. By them citing the month of Ramadan bil mantuq. That hadith, which is in your books, is clearly the message of Allah saying it by what? He's saying it verbally. That's enough? You seen it? One person? Be loud. Tell the people to call the event. Start fast tomorrow. That's what they call mantuq. The message of Allah said it verbally, clear, right? Listen. He says that after that, due to the fact that those narrations of Abdullah ibn Umar, Hadith Ibn Abbas that you mentioned in your book with the Arabi, he says its indication is the strongest. It's the strongest due to the fact that it's clear. Message of Allah on two occasions. One person came, and then another person came. You just seen it? That's enough? Khalas, done. One person. So we would say that the two, well, the narration is talking about two, that we would say if a person wanted to do that, there's nothing wrong with it. If a person wanted to be safe, okay, we just get two witnesses, fine. So that'd just be good upon good. But to say now that one is not enough, due to the fact that the message of Allah, what they call bidalalatil mantuq, you'll find in the qawaid of usul, when you study principles, you will find in certain instances dalalatul mantuq aqwa min dalalatil mafhum. I want you to memorize some of these principles. That the indication of when the Messenger of Allah verbalized it clearly is stronger in certain instances of the indication of what was understood from other narrations. What they call mantuq. When the Messenger of Allah, he actually mentioned it, verbalized it. So he made it clear, it's the sun in the sky. In certain instances, you'll find that that is stronger than what they call bil mafhum, but the actual understanding of certain narrations that some of the Sahaba might have understood. So, يُقَدَّمَ الْمَنْطُوقَ عَلَى الْمَفْهُومِ. So, what is mantuq, what is verbalized by the Messenger of Allah directly, will take precedence over the mafhum. Take precedence over the what? The understanding. That's what he's mentioning here. The Imam Dar-Qutni. So that is the qawaid, inshallah, I'll teach you guys later. You'll find in certain instances, as they say, dalalatul mantuq يقدم على المفهوم, or mantuq يقدم على المفهوم. That the mantuq, or what has been verbalized by the Messenger of Allah, takes precedence over what was understood by some of the Sahaba. Due to the fact that maybe some of them it might have been what? It might have been an early part of revelation. But the Messenger of Allah later on, of course, it might not have reached them, that the Messenger of Allah actually sufficed by the acceptance of one testimony. And that's the case here. So it says, as the Imam Dar-Qutni, he says, the two narrations, man, these allergies are killing me. It's allergy time. You'll learn principles in regards to some of the narrations of the Prophet ﷺ, that they say that dalalatul mantuq, or the indication of the Messenger of Allah verbalizing something, will take precedence over something that's understood, in which some of the Sahaba might have understood. And that's the case here. So the mantuq took precedence over the mafhum, over what was understood. And that's the reason why we say it was in your books and Buloogh and Al-Maraam. That is what? That is strong for one in the start. The month of Ramadan, it suffices and is adequate for what? How many? One. It's enough. Like I said, everyone, this is only applied for when? If they were in a Muslim country and there was a Muslim ruler and everything was correct, this was applied. For us here, no. We cannot do that here due to the fact there's no Khalifa. There's no ruler here. There's no ruler for the Muslims here. So that's the reason why you'll find that the Salafi Masajid, walillahi alhamd, they rely upon the citing of another what? Country. That's the reason why when we see that those other masajid say that we saw it, we kind of looked at them with a strange look. Like if you look into the narrations and the evidences and proofs, who's the emir that actually accepted it? Who? You'll find that there's a masajid out there, yeah, we saw it. Who's the emir? Who's the ruler? There's a ruler here. Or the ruler in the masjid. The ruler who we put as the ruler for the Muslims. Who? So-and-so Sufi? Shi'i? Who? Unreliable sources. Because none of them are reliable. None of them. So that's the reason why you'll find, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, these people that always want to argue over the internet every year, why can't we have a ru'ya? We supposed to have our own. The ulama say this. Yeah, there is. No doubt. And I wanted to read that to everyone. That's the statement of Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah. He does say that every country has its own what? Sighting based upon their zone that they're in. Based upon what they call the matali'. The matali', meaning the zone. That's based upon if we had a Muslim country and a Muslim what? Ruler. For us to have that. But we don't have that here. So those narrations that you argue and bicker over the internet over, it's not applicable. You can't apply it. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So don't get inside the argumentation or verbal confrontation with anyone right before, day before Ramadan. This is what I'm talking about. We cannot just unite on one siding. What's the problem with the Muslims? And we talked about last class, and I'm going to end it off again by saying, brothers and sisters, first of all, the sighting of the moon of Ramadan is not an affair that we make wala and bara upon. It's not an affair that we have to what? Unite or disunite upon, or unite or be divided upon. It's not those affairs. Has nothing to do with that. You'll find that the great Imam, even Sheikh Salih Fawzan, even mentions it, says that. He says it's sad to say that the Muslims say about this every year, wasting their time, about how we need to unify the sighting. He said right now, is it possible for us to unify the times of Salah all over the world? No, you can't. There's countries over there where it's the night, and today is the day. We're in the night, and they're in the day. And they're in the night, we're in the day, and we're in the day, they're in the what? They're in the night. So is it possible for all of us, all the Muslims all over the world to pray at the same time? No. Does anybody make this an issue of disunity or being united? Anyone? No, they don't. And anyone right now, if we was to ask them that, how would we look at them? Yeah, why can't the Muslims all pray at the same time? 5 salawat. And you would look at them like, you'd probably bust out laughing. Yeah, it's not even an issue of unity or division. That's just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how He created the creation. It's not an issue of whether or not we're going to what? Debate or argue or be in verbal confrontation based upon something that cannot happen. Nor did no one from the past or of today in modern day society make it an issue of unity or division. Same thing with the ru'ya. Same thing with the sighting of the moon. Same exact thing. You have certain places, of course, all over the world, of different places at different zones. We don't get into an argument over whether or not that we can unify the ru'ya or unify the sighting. It's not an issue of unity or disunity at all. So why are you wasting your time? The thing of what you'll find the great Imam Sheikh Salih Fawzan is here. He says, put that to the side. Let's get to the nitty-gritty of what you don't do. He says, tell the Muslims to unite upon one belief and one methodology. Because that's where true unity comes from. But they'll never do it. They will never what? Do that. He says, most important that you unite the Muslims upon one aqeedah, one methodology, not upon one sighting. One sighting that's not even an issue. The issue is uniting the Muslims upon one belief. He says, how come you don't spread that? No answer. Is it clear? So that's the reason why anyone who wants to get on the internet, do not indulge yourself of wasting a split second of your time with anyone that's going to argue over the sighting. It's a waste of time. Okay, everyone? Don't waste your time. I thought we'd stop here, inshallah. Any questions about the lesson? That's the strongest opinion. You got it, Sheikh. Sheikh Sadiq, just keep that one. That's it. That's all you need. Starting with 1 and with 2. That's enough. That's enough for you. Okay? Huh? No, this is with 2 and then end with 2. This one. No, this one's talked about, but I just mentioned here when I read that's with 2, ended with 2, start with 2. Start with 2, ended with 2. But that's not the strongest opinion, even though it's authentic. Mafhum. From fahm. From fahm means understanding. Mafhum means understood. Mafhum. يقدم المنطوق على المفهوم. You learn in قواعد الأصول قواعد أصولية, especially in fiqh. In usul, even Sheikh AbdurRahman, I have a book at any rate. You'll find in certain instances in the Sunnah that the Messenger of Allah's mantuq takes precedence over the mafhum. The mantuq is something that's verbalized, something that was right, understood. What was understood, meaning what by the Sahaba, what they understood. So the mantuq يقدم على المفهوم, ودلالة المنطوق تقدم على دلالة المفهوم. That's something that you will learn later on. I'll give you an example of it. طيب, anything else? He's memorizing. Anything else? Mafhum means understood. 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 I wanted to keep going. Yeah. They gotta pray. What time did it come in the mirror? The other mirror. Yeah, we have to pray. When it starts to get around 8 o'clock, we're going to turn the time back to 7. I mean, when I mean turn the time back, what I mean by that is we're going to start the class at 7. When it starts to get around 8 o'clock, like around that, as it gets too late, we'll start class at exactly 7 o'clock. All right? So I think that'd be better too, and take the burden off the brothers. When Maghrib starts to come around about 7:45, we'll start class at 7. All right? طيب, هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.